What is up, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Friday Sessions. Today, we talk about the interest rate cut, which is very exciting. We went into a bit of a deep dive about where we think interest rates are going to go in the short and medium and long term, and also why. Mark, who's with us on the pod today, talked about how the bond market is actually what determines the long-term interest rates, which is a really interesting discussion. If you're trying to create wealth, you need to understand this stuff. So if you find yourself with your eyes glazing over when we get into it, force yourself to start learning this, because interest rates are what will create your wealth. I know that sounds crazy, but on the surface, the name of the game is to buy things cheap, sell them high. That's how you get rich. And interest rates is a huge factor in that. We also talked about a lot of changes in the Australian property market, actually, across the board. We talked about young people and how we've been getting a lot of inquiry from young people feeling like Australia is just getting away from them. They're never going to be able to buy a home. The cost of living is out of control, and they're just giving up. And so we talked about that in quite a bit of detail about why that's actually not a good idea, and some real practical ways to view the world and think about creating money in this environment, including real solutions and advantages that you have that the boomers didn't have. I think you'll find that really, really helpful. And then we also talked about finding meaning and finding happiness in a world full of social media and comparing ourselves against everybody, not just our neighbor down the street once a week at church, but in the world all the time, nonstop, 24/7, and the impact that has on our mental well-being and some of the stuff I've been doing personally with leaving the country, paying the price of freedom and so on. I think you'll find it quite helpful. So with that said, enjoy. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Unemployable. Nice to be back with you all. Here, joined at the panel by none other than Eric Machado. How you doing, Eric?
Good, man. We got the old crew back. The OGs are back in the studio today. We got Mark and James.
Yeah. We gotta get these boys kitted out with some merch, mate. You got the hat. I got the new shirt.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the MAGA hat. So when the unemployable MAGA hat arrives, I'll be wearing it.
They're coming. James, how are you, mate? Got a bit of a 3-day growth there, mate?
I do, mate, indeed. Yeah, just trying to mix it up a little bit, see how much I can bring out the Christmas spirit and the Father Christmas look. I've just realised how fucking wild it was.
You look a bit like Santa Claus.
Yeah, I'm trying to, hopefully not from the gut perspective, but I might need your dietary book.
Welcome, everybody. This is going to be a fun one. There's lots of, it feels like every week when we sit down, there's so much stuff in the news cycle at the moment. Like one day, the next day, I hear stuff in the week and I'm thinking by the time I sit down on Tuesday, this is going to be old news for our Friday recording. So anyway, here we are. I think, the best way to kick this off this week, I think the biggest story in Australia right now, of course, is interest rates and, seeing them come down for the first time in, what is it, 4 years, I think? First time in 4 years?
I think it was November 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About 4 years. So about 4 years since we've had a rate cut. Macro, Mark, you probably have a view on this, and Eric as well. But 25 basis points, what do you think is ahead for? What do you think that means? Is it a good idea, a bad idea? What does that mean to the average punter and the economy?
Well, Eric, I'll let Eric go first because he's got some views that he shared on Instagram, and then I think I agree with a lot of what Eric's saying, but maybe disagree over the long term. So let Eric go first.
Obviously, last few years have been painful for a lot of people, right? We were on low interest rates for so many years, and then to get hit with all those interest rates, and it really hit everyone's pocket. And especially being in business, right? Especially being in online business, different types of business, retail business. Most retail businesses are down compared to, a few years ago. And it's because there's not as much disposable income obviously that is out there for people to spend. A lot of people are doing it tough. But I look at the different aspects of what happens when they decrease interest rates. It's not just about people having more money to spend, but what it does to things like bank deposits. So a lot of people have been sitting on money and putting it in, non-risk deposit accounts, right? Savings accounts, receiving, upwards of 4 to 5%, which is not bad, for an investment that doesn't have a lot of risk sitting in the bank. But what will happen now is interest rates come back, and some banks have already been dropping interest rates already, even before the Feds come out and basically the RBAs come out and decrease rates, which means the deposit interest rates have been coming down as well. And they will keep coming down as interest rates come down. And what that means is more money will hit the market, because when you're not getting your 4s and 5s and you're sitting there and now getting your, 3s or 2.5s, that's a big difference in regards to the interest that you're making. And people will be chasing higher returns. And I think more money will be put into the property market, more money will be put into the stock market, and most likely the crypto market. People will be chasing returns on whatever level of risk and appetite that they have. So that's quite interesting. And I did a post on Instagram saying, hey, this is what happens. And I personally think interest rates are going to come down tomorrow. This was a couple of days ago. And as it happened, they did come down, and I was getting messages going, hey, so what do you think? Is this the next property run? And also on the news today, it was already saying that, for first-time home buyers, it's going to be more difficult to enter the property market, because this could mean that property prices will go up because more people will come in the market. So it's just funny how the news just comes on and talks about whatever they want. And the other thing is, obviously, what it does is it gives people more serviceability, right? Now, this is only a 0.25, but I feel like we got a few more coming, and that's going to give people more purchasing power. But what happens is people forget, right? We forget very, very easily. I remember when it was peak COVID and you couldn't get a car, right? I had friends that are in trades. You couldn't even buy a Toyota Hilux. They weren't available. And I don't even think they're still available, to be honest with you. And the costs have just kept creeping up, and everybody was buying. And now you can't give away luxury cars. I have a friend that's in the luxury car business, and he reckons a lot of the big brands are doing it tough because people aren't buying like they used to. So it's all cycles. And the reason why I'm saying that is we have to remember, just because you're saving now, $160 a week or $180 a week on your mortgage, don't just go and spend that on shit, right? And this is what happens. I feel people forget, and we're consumers. We spend, and in our businesses at the moment, we're seeing a little bit of a change in consumer behavior already at the beginning of this year, which is good. But what we got to be careful of is inflation. Inflation is still there, right? It's come back. We were at over 7%. It's come back to around, I think, 3.5 or 3, and their target's between 2 and 3. But they got to be very, very careful, because if they start dropping rates too quickly, people will just keep spending more money, which will put pressure on inflation, which can, go the other way. And like you said, right, they might go up.
Yeah, and like I agree with pretty much everything you were saying there about how the initial reaction function to rates dropping will be perceived, and how the market will take it for sure. I just believe I agree with your last point probably most, that just because rates have dropped doesn't mean you should go out there and start spending like a silly sailor, because over the long term, I think rates are going to continue to rise. I think we might be having a little, maybe the next 6 to 18 months, we get rates drop a little bit. They won't drop back to the lows that they were previously at. But I think what we're entering is an upward rate cycle. So since 1980, rates have been coming down from like 19% down to nearly 0. And I think that's changed, and we're heading into a secular inflationary cycle. So interest rates are going to start going up. And the reason that the interest rates are going to start going up is because the thing that controls, especially the long end of interest rates most, the 10-year, the 20-year, the 30-year, which is relevant for mortgages and houses, are bondholders. So they're investors around the world who want to invest in that debt. And because of inflation, and because the how inflationary things are going to be over the next coming years, I think bondholders are trying to get out of bonds, and they're demanding a higher premium or a higher interest rate to hold bonds. And we're sitting in a place now where people have got the option of investing in Bitcoin. They've got the option of investing in property. So I don't for a minute think that higher interest rates are going to lead to a property crash. I think people are going to continue to chase those higher returns in Bitcoin, tech, property, and things like that. And we're going to see interest rates go up and these assets go up. So there's going to be like assets and inflation.
Yeah.
Can you, Mark, just slow that down? Because I think this is a very important point, the relationship between bondholders and interest rates. Just say that again one more time, because for the longest time, the average person listening to this, interest rates are so fundamental to everything, right? Like if you want to create wealth and you understand interest rate cycles, as Eric said, when interest rates drop, money floods into the market. So you want to be in front of that. But if it's only short term and they're going to go up again, you can get caught. So it's very important that people understand this. I made a lot of money in that last commercial boom because all the money rushed into real estate. And of course, more money trying to buy the same assets drove the price up. And then when I saw that people were willing to buy commercial real estate on a 3% yield, that means the prices are super high. I sold, and then you wait for interest rates to go, and then you buy at the bottom again. That's sort of how you do it. So can you just
I'll try
explain the link between bondholders and how bondholders affect interest rates?
Yeah, I'll try and explain it as simply as I possibly can. I probably need to practice these explanations a little bit more. But basically, a lot of people think that the Fed or the RBA controls the price of interest rates or the interest rate. And that is true on the short end. So like the 3-month rate, the overnight rate, or even like the 2-year interest rate. But what controls long-term interest rates, which affect our home mortgages, because our home mortgages are 30-year interest rates, are bondholders. And basically bondholders are all the world's capital, right? So that might be in the form of banks holding interest rate risk or bonds on their balance sheet. It might be cash, like so Apple has $100 billion in cash. And what the risk is for 40 years, holding bonds has been a winning investment because interest rates have come down. And this is one of the things that a lot of people find really hard to grasp because it's counterintuitive. As interest rates come down, the asset, the bond, actually appreciates in value. So the person who owns that debt, who has lent that debt, is making money because the price of that debt is increasing as interest rates come down. When it goes the other way and interest rates start going up, the person who has lent that debt or owns that bond is actually losing money on the bond. And so as interest rates come out of a 40-year downturn and start to go up over the next 10, 15, 20 years, and there'll be periods where interest rates drop, bondholders are going to start losing their wealth. The problem with that is most of the $500 trillion of capital in the world, most of it are in bonds. And so there's going to be, and this is the reason why interest rates, I think, will go up, is because slowly, people are going to be like, we need to get out of this melting ice cube, which is bonds, because our asset is going to depreciate. So slowly, people are going to start to try and exit bonds. That's going to put upward pressure on rates.
And another thing people don't think about is, as much as we all want interest rates to come down, the Australian dollar will devalue as interest rates come down as well. So if you think that you're not getting a lot for your money now when you're converting into US and different currencies, it will become worse as interest rates come down because the dollar will devalue and it's less attractive for global investors.
Yes, and there is a bit of a misnomer as well. Like it's kind of like, ring the bell. Pavlov's dog, ring the bell, dog eats, ring the bell. It's like we've been conditioned to think that lower interest rates are good because they make it easier for us to buy property and things like that. And that is all true, right? If you bought property, you made a lot of money. But there's also been a massive wealth divide over that time because the people who have bought assets got rich and the people who worked for their money got poor. And so when interest rates are rising, which they will do, I think, over the next 20, 30 years, it's actually a good sign for the economy. It actually means the economy is growing and that productivity is going back into labor and things like that. So it's actually a good thing. And like I said earlier, I don't think that it's going to mean property prices will crash in Australia. I still think the same can be true. Property prices can go up and interest rates can go up. But yeah, where you invest your money, I think, is going to be really, really important. And, to Adam, to your point, bonds being important because all that capital is going to be chasing other investments. And so trying to understand where those investments are going to be is going to be important.
There's a few headlines around that too. Like I was listening to a podcast from PRD Realty, their chief economist yesterday, and on a $500,000 mortgage, you can expect to save. It's not $180 a week; it's $19 a month. So it's not like significant. It is something. Not saying it's not, but it certainly is a great headline grabber right before an election.
Yeah, it is. But I think as well, it's mindset more than it is money in the bank. I think it gives people a bit of confidence going, okay, I think we've, other than what Mark thinks in the future, but I think we've now tapped out. There's been a lot of people, I've been talking to a lot of real estate agents, investors, sitting on their hands from buying and sitting on their hands from selling because they don't know what the market is doing. So there's this point where it's like, okay, it's now stopped and now it's starting to come back. So it gives people confidence going, if I'm going to buy now, I know it's not going to be at 7 and 8% at the moment. It's actually coming the other way. How long it keeps going the other way, we don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball, but it gives confidence in the market to people go, it's like a sigh of relief of the unknown. Are they going to come down? Are they not going to come down? You read news articles and all in the same day, they're going up, they're coming down. Property prices are crashing. Property prices are at record levels. And it's very, very, very confusing. It's not just to the average person, to all of us.
You're right. On this article, that perception, isn't it? They were saying, how did the Australian write up the headline on the rate cut instantly online? How did news.com write it up? How did all this? And they're all conflicting.
Yeah, and
their view and take on it.
And that's the problem. Like a lot of these pundits and journalists, they really have no idea how interest rates work and what drives them. They're just looking for clickbait and they're looking for a headline. Yeah. I think what you said about mindset is really important, and getting back to fundamentals, right? Like if you're out there looking at interest rates going down, thinking, hey, I can just go buy a property anywhere here and I'm going to make money again, then you could be in for a surprise, right? Because the things have probably changed a little bit on the macro and the fundamental level as well, right? Like everyone used to come to the big cities for jobs. So Sydney, Melbourne, everyone would flock to those big cities for jobs. Now with AI and the way that the world is changing and the way that the job market is going to change, that might not happen. So it might not make sense to go into Melbourne and Sydney CBD and buy a high-rise apartment because interest rates coming down, that property might not go up in value. So mindset and fundamentals, like what are the areas that are going to achieve the growth? And interest rates are going to be something that is, a wind at your back, but yeah. It's not the be all and end all, right? The fundamentals are important still.
Yeah. Yeah. I think mindset's important. I got into a few discussions this week, and because we've had so much traction on social media, because Stu's now working here, he's in the studio with us, our social YouTube channel manager, he's relocated and he's just kicked things to another level. There's so much traction in our socials in the last few weeks. I've had quite a few young Aussies saying, because I put up a post, well, he clipped the post of me saying how we're unproductive as a workforce, which got a lot of interest, shall I say?
Well, it's 100% true.
Every weekday you just fucking getting slaughtered.
I'm getting barbecued at the moment, but
people don't like the truth, right? They want to be lied to.
It's Stu's fault that you're getting barbecued.
Yeah. But actually, some of the engagement was really interesting. So young Australians who just say, look, we're not trying because we're never going to make it. Our boomer parents, they think they're so clever because they all got rich the lazy way of property, and that opportunity doesn't exist for us, and so we're not going to try, and we're not even going to give it a crack. And I went back to one guy and I said, look, mate, I feel your pain as a young person, and you are right. A house now is like way more. Peter Dutton came out and said, I bought a house when I was 19, and some young ladies unpacked the reality of him buying a house in 1991 was, well, the house was 90 grand, stamp duty was 1%, not 3%. There was a government grants where it only worked out, he only had to save $3.5 grand.
So 44% of the property price didn't go to the government or some form of taxation?
Right. So the bottom line was he only had to save $3,500 to buy his first house. So it's a little different to kids today who need 80 or 100, right? It's a different world. But what I said to this young guy is I said, listen, you're right about all this stuff, but can you now list for me what advantages you young people who are in business today have that the boomers didn't. The boomers had housing, and it was a slow and painful journey. It took decades to build that wealth. The boomers don't have AI. The boomers didn't have crypto. The boomers didn't have social media. The boomers didn't have e-commerce, right? Like, how many young people in their 20s have we had on this show that have got $10 million a year dollar businesses or more that are in their 20s, that I look at them in awe going, that just was not on the table for me coming up, right? So I want to encourage young Australians who feel like the property market has gotten away from them and therefore they're never going to be successful. I'm going to give up, which I think is un-Australian, and start writing a list of all the advantages that you have as a young Australian living in a developed third world that has more access to capital. Like when I was growing up, not only capital, but intellectual capital. When I grew up, and you guys, we would read about the billionaires once a year in the rich list. There'd be a paragraph or maybe 2 paragraphs and a photo, and that was all you would see or hear of most of Australia's richest people. You guys, I'm not joking, can learn more in an hour and a half about how to get rich than we would get in a year in Australia, you know? And so count your blessings is what I'm saying. Now, I know I'm going to have some, if no, I'm just trying to help those people who want to be helped. Trust me, looking at it as a boomer, we're envious of the opportunities that you have in business. And I agree, we still need doctors and nurses, and not everybody's going to be in business, but there are definite advantages for young people.
Adam, I've got you back, right? If anyone is sitting there going, oh, fuck this guy, he's got no idea, doesn't know what he's talking about, you need to have a long, hard look at yourself in the mirror, because the reality is this: there is more money today in circulation than any time in history by fucking miles. The only difference is the way that money is circulating is starting to change. It's simple. It's simple math. I know it's hard for people to comprehend, and it's a big shift, but it's simple math. The boomers who own all that money, unfortunately, my parents are boomers, they're going to pass away soon. So they have to, there's a mechanism where that wealth needs to get transferred. And if you're sitting here waiting for property prices to come down so that you can have your shot, then you're looking at it the wrong way. The way that you just put that scenario, the way that you're able to sum up the problem and give people steps is fucking amazing if you would just listen. Because you're right, there's Bitcoin, there's tech, there's AI, there's so many ways that wealth is going to get transferred. It's probably not going to get transferred in property. Like we've discussed, I think interest rates are going up over the long term. So there's going to be other more productive ways to get that piece of the wealth. So yeah, I fully got you back on that one.
I think one of the major problems with a lot of people, and I've heard it in discussions, is the transfer of wealth. And I'll give you an example. In my family, there isn't a lot of transfer of wealth that's happening in my family. When my parents pass away, God bless them, they've done as much as they can do in life, but there isn't 15 properties coming to me that I could just think about and sit on. But what I think is there's a lot of people that know their baby boomer parents, right, have $20 million of property that's coming to them. What's the incentivization? What's the incentive for you to go out and do amazing things when you know you've got a crutch to lean on?
Yeah. I mean, you threw me a curveball out. I didn't think you were going in that direction, but fuck yeah.
It is a mindset. And I've been in discussions and hearing people speak about what they're getting, when they're getting it, how much it's going to be. For someone like me, there was no choice. It's either I got to go make my own wealth, because not a lot of wealth is coming to me. Now, God bless the people that actually have the wealth coming, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's amazing, right? But I think for some, they're just sitting back and waiting.
Two things on that. And the first one is, how many of your parents went on like 5 round the world holidays before 30?
None.
Right? And fuck, like I did. So many people I know of average means have been on so many around the world trips, either via backpack. Oh yeah, I backpack. All right, you still went on a round the world holiday, right? These are choices that people are making as opposed to investing in
I
property.
saw a clip. I can't remember. This young man in Brisbane going up to people in the street, and he's an influencer, and he went up to an 80-year-old guy in the street. He said, "What do you make of the housing crisis and affordability?" Now, I know I'm going to get barbecued juice here. I will bookmark this because you'll write it in. So the young guy goes to the old guy and he says, "Well, I reckon it's bullshit, right?" And I think there's part truth in this. The old guy said to the young guy, "The problem is you lot." He says, "You think that, you're all complaining about housing prices and how you can't get rich. Meanwhile, you get up in the morning, you go downstairs and spend $6 on a flat white," right? He says, "We went and got a tin of International Roast, which lasted us a month. Then we didn't go to the gym and spend $100 a month on a gym.
$100 a week now.
$100 a week for a gym. We do push-ups in the shed." We didn't go out to dinner 3 times a week. We would buy sausages at home and meat and 3 veg, and that was how it was. We did things a lot. We didn't have the choices you have and the lifestyle to maintain that you young people do. Now, I think there's a part truth in that. And I know that this harks back to whoever said the avocado toast problem.
Gerner.
Was it Gerner that said the avocado toast?
Yeah.
So I think there is some part truth in that. It is hard once you've seen that lifestyle and experience that lifestyle. But I said to somebody on socials, she was outraged because I got fried about my Coles and Woolies comments defending Coles and Woolworths, and people don't understand that when COVID happened, we had the perfect storm, right? We had money printing like crazy, and we had interest rates through the floor. So there was waiting lists for Porsches. There was price of secondhand cars was higher than a price of a new car. That's a perfect example of prices going up and not coming back down in many cases. Luxury cars did, but many places, just the cost of everything went up, and they just targeted Coles and Woolies because, they're big and everybody uses them. But I said to the girl, "Do you go," because she said, "They're ripping people off. It's an outrage." I said, "Do you go into your local coffee shop and say it to the face of the person serving you your $7 latte that you're getting ripped off?" The reason it's $7 is because the rent has gone up for that little coffee shop. The cost of the beans has gone up. Everything's gone up, and it wasn't come back down. Wages has gone up. Insurance has gone up. So when you buy a $7 latte, it's this underlying problem that I was trying to highlight, is that it's this inflationary problem that affects all businesses, whether they're big or small. But anyway, it's worth thinking about.
But the point is that for good or for bad, right? And we've seen the comments light up about the 44% taxes for buying a property. For better or for worse, we're out here talking about it, trying to do our bit to make it more positive or to change it in some way.
Yeah.
But the reality is that these things aren't going to change in a hurry, no matter how many people are out there talking about it. So we need to adapt to the new.
Education is what will change.
I was about to say, not only that, you talk about opportunities from AI, e-com, all that sort of connectability and whatnot. I mean, there's a tsunami of boomers are all retiring, and a lot of the Australian economy is based on small business, and they've all got to give up these businesses. So either through succession planning, which is not happening. So anyone that's out there that's younger and half smart will go out there and look at the conventionally boring businesses, and the terms you can get these on nowadays are ridiculous. I mean, these people are going to throw the keys back or offer fucking insane terms. I know, because that's what I was doing previously, and still do, vendor financing deals in at 100% over 4 years. You can buy a business with no money, no money out of pocket, with creative financing structures. If you're going to go and not going to become a fucking YouTuber, there's plenty of opportunity there, and that wealth transfer as well. So there's another opportunity there. That's
part of that, James, is read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, because a lot of these business owners, when you talk to them, their number one, we've got a client, Eric and I are mentoring at the moment. They took us to lunch last week, and they're acquiring their largest competitor at the moment. And the guy said, "I've got another offer, but I want you two to own it because I like you two. And I think my staff and my brand is going to be better in your hands." He was 60-something. He just wants out. So, James, you're 100% right.
And legacy, they want to make sure that baby is looked after and continues down, because I speak to a lot of small business owners, and they're exactly saying that. One week, they had the family work in the business, the 2 sons and a daughter, and they said, "No, we're over it," and went off and did something else again. So what you going to do? Just fire sales it.
I've got something I can add to that as well. Like if you want to have a look at the macro and the bigger picture, right? Like at the moment, there's this AI arms race. So Google and Meta and Apple and all these companies, OpenAI, are spending billions and billions of dollars on the infrastructure to kind of set up all this AI. But what's happening is that they're going to start competing in each other's backyards, and things that they used to be able to charge for are going to become commoditized and free. So they're spending all this capital expenditure on this infrastructure. They're going to bring the cost down of all those programs for free. And so the value is going to accrete to the end user of all those softwares. So if there's, to your point, if there's a back of office business out there at the moment that's got low margins, but an AI software can come in and automate that business, well, you can just increase the bottom line by tenfold. These are the type of businesses that you want to be targeting.
I just want to touch base back on what Adam said about the 80-year-old man talking to the young kid. And there's a big difference from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, even 20 years ago, is that the person that went on the holiday, or the person that went on the fancy dinner, right, or the person that bought the fancy house, it was never documented. You couldn't see it. If you went on a holiday, right, you take your Kodak camera, you would take photos. It would take a week to develop. You'd pick it up, then you put it in your photo album, and you'd show some friends and family when they come to the house.
We had slideshows back in my day.
Right. Today, right, and we all do it. I do it. Adam does it. James doesn't really do it. You do it, right? We'll go out to dinner. You take a photo of the place that you're at. You take a photo, whether it's you or the missus, take a photo of the food. Take a photo. You go to Sydney, you take a photo of the hotel you're staying at. You're not going to take a photo when you're staying at the Best Western, are you? You're going to take a photo when you're staying at a nice place.
You'll take a photo.
You're going to take a photo when you meet someone that's
just
famous.
Someone
famous, right?
Shared, mate, so that's why. Just saving your eyeballs.
The thing is now,
it's that time of year again at Unemployable, where we're opening up our Unemployable business coaching program. It's over a 12-month period, and with that, you get private one-on-one coaching, group coaching, as well as private and live events throughout the year. You could get private coaching with me, and not only me, but our panel of experts that we have put together. These panel of experts have been in our network and are the exact people that we use in our business successes. People from branding, sales, marketing, our lawyers, our accountants, everyone that has helped build our businesses, you have access to. If this sounds of interest, go to www.unemployable.com.au/coaching and register your interest to see if it's a fit for you and us. Hope to see you there.
There's no control on impulse. When we go and see someone at the newest restaurant open and they post it, it's like, I have to go there now, right? It's instant gratification. Mm-hmm. And what's happening now is, people are buying things that they don't need with money that they don't have to impress people that they don't know and they don't like. And that's happening more and more and more and more. Why? For the gram. And we all get sucked in. You posted recently a party you had at your house with the Italian guys making pizza, they're singing Pavarotti from your balcony. And I'm like, I want to do that. That is sick, right? But we're sitting there comparing. My parents didn't compare themselves with anyone else because other than their tight little crew, they didn't know some random person that's in your feed going, oh, check out Positano and check out this and check out that and making you feel like a shitbag. And that's why people are going, I'm just giving up on the dream of owning property and doing this and doing that because we're getting sucked into the impulse of just social media. I feel the reason why I'm saying it is because it affects me. If it affects me, it affects everybody else as well in the same way, whether you want to admit it or not.
You're the culprit doing those 3-month tours in fucking
Louis
Vuitton fucking slides.
I am a culprit.
So Eric,
there's a portion of it as inspiration, and there's a portion of it of showing my friends and mates. But unfortunately, is it inspirational, or are you putting people down the wrong track of going, just live today and experience and not worry when you're, like I have people that now in my family and friends and other people that are retiring, and they're not retiring on tons of money, right? But they might have lived a great life. But let me tell you, when you hit those older ages, you need something. You can't rely on government only.
So that's a perfectly framed explanation of the problem. What do you think that, for someone sitting here watching the pod, getting through it, they're probably not wasting their lives every minute. What's the solution? What's the solution to to where we're at?
I think social media is a absolute cancer, on society and mental health for people of all ages. And I've been deeply reflecting on my relationship with social media recently. I've stopped posting a lot. We're still doing political content, but I don't enjoy the engagement I'm getting from people who follow politics. It's taking me down a path of very aggressive, dark. I'm confronted by the level of rudeness and aggression that somebody will come at you with and they've never seen you before. They watch a 60-second clip completely out of context and call you a C word or criticize your teeth or, I just get it all day, every day. And that's just that. That's one component. The other component is, like everyone, you doom scroll and you see, I follow Gentleman Modern, you see people just cruising around in the streets of Italy and beautiful girls and beautiful boys and, amazing places. And I've been watching a little bit of content recently about people who have left Australia or left a Western country and said, I've taken my kids and I've opted out and I've moved to the Philippines or Southeast Asia and just said, and they talk about the impact that it's had on their relationship with each other and the impact that's had a relationship with their kids and the amount of time that they're now getting together. And it's really interesting seeing, I think in the West, we just don't know how to be calm. I've been listening to The Power of Now with Eckhart Tolle, and he talks about the Indians and how the Indians look at white men like they're crazy, as in, American Indians said, you white men are just never in the moment. You're never connected. You're never present. And that book was written in 1998 or something. It's gotten way worse now.
Prior to social media.
So I think this ability to just learn to just step away from the phone for a minute and think about the people you care about most and then look at the world objectively. It's all lost now because we're all in our own little rabbit holes. We've all been pushed to the edges. There is no middle anymore. I think there's a lot to be said for that and really rebuilding life from first principles. And I like what you're doing, Mark, in terms of you left Melbourne and you bought in Byron and you sort of created a tribe there to raise your family. And it's so reflected in I've watched you change in that time, moving to Suffolk Park, and you've got a group of cool friends already there that have also got young kids. And I just think for listeners, we all got to start to really think. I feel personally in Australia right now, and I certainly, if my comments are any measure of the inbound, there's a lot of, when I get that really aggressive, I woke up this morning, open up, the first thing I got called was at CUNT, dumb, CU, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, this guy's never met me. I'm thinking, how hard has it got to be in somebody's life? And there's a lot of that.
There's a lot of pain.
Rage and pain and disconnection. And so I think as Australians, we've got to start to really think about what.
Before we end up America starting to riot over politics. We're pretty placid here. America's in a civil war.
But it's true. In those comments, and I read some of them, this morning I read one. I said it to Stuart and Adam in the car on the way here, and I can't believe some of the things people actually say. Actually, never mind think. Right, thinking it is one thing. Pulling out your phone and actually typing it in as a comment, right, where people could click on your profile and see who you are, and some of them obviously aren't open profiles. I relate that a lot of it is, unfortunately, it comes to us, right? And we all have to go, okay, do we deflect that or do we actually let it affect us? And I look at some of these comments, and that's what I see is I see a lot of pain in people, right? Because not only are they commenting on our stuff, right?
They're doing it too, right?
I mean, Unemployable and Adam and Eric and Mark and James and the gang aren't the most important people in the world, right? So you can imagine how many other comments they are,
But do you think
also putting out there on different people's pages. But I think it's a lot of pain. I think there's a lot of comparing, there's, and then it's look at this guy. Yeah, easy for you to say. A lot of the comments is oh yeah, look at you guys thinking, oh yeah, you're the property developer and you're this and you're like.
But do you honestly think that do you honestly think that social media is the problem? Like you said before that my parents never compared themselves to anyone. Bullshit. Like it's bullshit. Like why did my grandparents immigrate from Italy to Australia? And
I think the difference market's different. Like when we grew up,
but is it different? I think this is an opinion, right? But I think my grandparents compared themselves to the other people working in the factory, because why were they going out and buying 5 houses?
The difference, Mark, is the quantity. Like, so if when I was growing up, the comparing was done at church on Sunday. So who like you turn up, who's got a nicer car? So did you hear that Daryl just bought the new Statesman? And you'd see that once a month.
But why is that? Why is the quantity make it more painful?
Well, today,
I don't think it is.
Today, it's not uncommon for people. I mean,
You see it
how
every
much
day,
do you spend in your Apple tracking on socials, right? Like hours. Most people, it's hours a day.
So you reckon the quantity of time that they're feeling?
Their brain is constantly imprinted at a high level with what they don't have and how much their life sucks. They're sitting there having a hot pie down the bakery, looking at Eric in fucking, south of France in Positano with fucking bottles on fire with sparklers out the top, spending $5,000 on a fish and wine, right? But not Eric, but you know what I mean? Like people that are having that moment and sharing it, but then there's all these people that are having that moment. So, and then there's all the fraudulent, anyway, so the other side of it's quite dark is that the incentivization for content creators is clicks. So it's, rage is a great way to get clicks, or controversy is a great way to get clicks, or exaggeration, or, so the incentive system is all towards clicks and engagement. And then of course, you start to, you're not immune to it. Like if you're going to go out there and create content, like it costs money to create content. It's time, it's people, it's resource. And of course, sooner or later, you have to be, you're living in a commercial world, so you have to align with the commercial incentives. So it's a very interesting thing. Just changing topics for a minute. All I want to say with all of that is that I think as Australians listening to this and anywhere in the world, what I'd encourage you to do is if you're not in a place where you are have agency over your life yet, and you are very much feeling like you're part of the machine, and the way to solve it is not going to be going onto social media and commenting commenting is going to do jack shit. What's going to change your life is like what I said to that young person. So I agree with you, this is hard, and what's also amazing about this, and it goes back to Tony Robbins, quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. And it just saddened me when I saw young Australians literally giving up and saying, I don't try because big corporations are making all the profits and don't pay tax, or because house prices are never going to be within reach. It's so sad.
And I agree with all that, and you make good points about the quantity, and it's that constant bombardment. I think sometimes though, social media gets too much of the blame, and at the end of the day, what you're looking at on social media is an outward representation of your inward feelings or your inward community. So I still think one of the core places that you can like, even now, like Dom and I feel so much different in up north here in Byron than what we do in Melbourne. The energy is just so much different. And I think one of the things that people can do is also really take a hard look at their actual real world environment as well, because if there's more that's going on in your real world environment that's positive, then maybe you'll be less likely to go to that vacuum suck of social media. And so, when we do have the opportunity to meet new people, to meet new friends, and maybe we just look and make sure that the people that we're surrounding ourselves are supporting us and not reinforcing a negative message. And sometimes it's family, right? Like sometimes
I saw a great meeting this week, and I said, when you start to think about certain people and you just go, I just don't have the energy to catch up with them, listen to it.
Yeah.
That's your spirit saying, just don't lean into that. And just an encouragement to people that, people, like, if you want change, you've got to get really proactive about it. Like, I'm sure it wasn't easy for you to make the decision to move to Byron Bay.
No, it's okay.
It's not easy for me to make the decision to leave Australia. There's some huge big things that have to happen in order to do that. And it's a project that takes months. But people will look at me and go, oh, you're lucky or whatever. But it's not luck. It's actually a lot of work, and it's a lot of risk, and it's selling assets at a time where selling real estate right now is not the smartest thing to do. It's not the best time to sell commercial property or the best time to sell my home. But I have made real decisions and made real priorities in my life, and I'm prepared to pay for that decision. And most people don't. They don't want to pay for the decision. They want the upside, but they're not prepared to make the sacrifice on the downside. It will work out great for me because I just know me and I back me. But the change happens for people who make real decisions and just say, I'm going to change. I'm going to leave this job or change this thing or make it happen. And it's been a process. Like I sat down, one of my friends, I won't reveal who it is, but he's connected to a lot of very successful people far more successful than me even, which is not that hard. But anyway, he sat down with me. He says, look, I'm connected to a lot of people because he's a professional service provider. And he said, of all my clients, Adam, he said, you inspire me the most. And I said, why? And he goes, because I've got all these clients that are richer than you and further down the road than you. And all of them should be making the decision you're making, but they're still waking up every day, stressing over the next property they're buying, trying to develop the next thing. And they're just getting older and older and older, and they're not enjoying their life. And you've actually just like made this huge decision, and you're liquidating, and you're moving to a completely different structure. And I look at my year ahead now and I'm genuinely excited. Like in the next 3 months, I'm going to be in Paris, I'm going to be in Amsterdam, I'm going to be in Cyprus, I'm going to be in London, I'm going to be in New York, I'm going to be in all these places going to conferences that are nothing to do with...
Let's mute Adam on social media.
Yeah, but it's nothing to do with what I'm normally some of it is stuff that I'm genuinely interested in, but I'm going to some conferences in the Middle East and in Asia, like the high-tech conference, which I'm not into that industry yet. There's a whole bunch of things that I'm booking to do, but you can do a micro version of that in your life, like moving states or doing something. But anyway, he said, you're actually seizing the moment, and I'm going to meet new people, and I have really no idea where I'm going to be in a year from now. Like, I don't know what I'll be doing. I could be doing anything. I might meet some random guy at a trade show in, Abu Dhabi, and
which could have said random person,
but some random dude in some industry that I have nothing about. And
but can you talk about the weight off your shoulders that a decision, I know that making decisions like that are really, really hard, but I've seen it in my sister who basically just quit her corporate job for 20 years and now is doing remote selling. Explain the weight off your shoulders.
I'll tell you a quick story. So this is because, and this will challenge some people. My property that I live in, I bought it for $4.75 million just before COVID, and with stamp duty, $5 million. When I sell that thing, I don't know what it'll sell for. It's going to auction next week, right? But when I walk out of that, I'm not going to make much of a gain on that property relative, like really not much at all, right? In that time, I've paid all the costs. Like, I don't have a mortgage, thankfully, but I've had to pay body corporate and repairs and da. And Australians are like, buy your own home, best investment ever. You're not going to pay any tax on it. If I'd put that $5 million into Bitcoin at that time, it'd be $25 million today, right? Just for a quick perspective, right? I didn't, but I bought the house instead, which is fine. But it really gets you thinking, is it like the best investment? Can you step back? And then making those decisions, and people go, oh, you're going to sell the house, and if you hold on to it when the interest rates drop, the market will kick on and you might pick up an extra $1 million. And I'm like, dude, if I sell this place for what I'm selling it now and move to a lower stress, better tax environment for me, I'll pick up $700,000 a year just through what I do in first mortgage lending. And I won't have the house, and it'll be liquid, and I can go wherever I want to be, and I'll make $700,000 a year in income. And I did the math. I said, look, if it compounds at 7% between now and the Olympics in Brisbane versus just doing my first mortgage lending, I'm actually still ahead with first mortgage lending, and I'm mobile, and I don't have to have this asset at home. And as soon as I move out, I pay land tax of $40,000 a year because the building's on a $30 million site.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what do I want out of this? So
I've got two stories at the moment. The first one is me, like our Amazon business has had trouble due to advertising, etc. Anyway, the gross margin went from like 28% down to 12%. Now we've got it back up to 28%. And throughout that time, we've been trying to grow the business. And I'm sitting here trying to pull myself away from the business. And as the profit margin goes back up on the Amazon business, I'm thinking, why am I putting so much effort into all these other things that aren't paying me? 2 years of effort that hasn't paid me. So I'm pulling it back, and I feel so much lighter because now I can go out and explore other things. But not just that. My sister, before she bought her house, I was trying to explain to her, because we'd just gone through all that and whatever, that, maybe it's not what you think it's going to be. Anyway, she finishes the house, does the renovation, $1.2 million house plus the renovation. And now she's thinking about, and she just changed her career. She's thinking about picking up and going to Bali and changing her life. She's like, I don't know if the house is now the best investment. Like, we're being sold this dream that owning your own home. And so we're sitting here going, fuck, I can't own my own home. I'm fucked. It's like, when you get there, it's not all it's cracked up to be anyway. So,
mate, I will leave.
Open your mind.
I will have 6 suitcases, and I feel so much lighter. I can't even explain to you. I've sold my Porsche. I've sold the Tesla. Sold all my real estate, and I just feel light, and I feel just like, I know there's going to be challenges, and I'm moving to an environment where people say, and I've said it to people, if you don't like Australia, leave. Well, that's exactly what I've done. I'm moving to an environment where, they want you to be there, and they're incentivizing me to be there, and like, from a business point of view, there's real reasons for me to be there. I can make trades and not pay capital gains tax.
I get so inspired when I hear you telling this story or even talking about it, because that is real wealth for me. That feeling of feeling light from that position where you feel there, anything is possible.
Totally.
Right. But when you're bogged down with this investment and that thing that's not making money and that thing it's got to fix, it feels like nothing's possible.
But what? Because I'm in the same headspace, right? Like, why do we feel like it's always the next thing? It's the next business. It's the next connection. It's the next property.
Maybe that
it's the next crypto. It's what is it?
Maybe that comes back to your whole social media thing, that you're seeing someone else doing it, right? Like, that was the thing for me when I was back in the house and land industry. Someone else was going out there and starting a house and land agency, or was doing this development. I always thought I had to do all these things, and then I'd do these things and I'd fucking hate it. I'm like, why do I hate this so much? And then I realized, because this is not my calling.
Jeff, I was about to say, look, some people play golf. Some people love tennis. Some people love business too. Some people love the thrill of it. And you have for 30 years. You're probably over it now because you've reached some peaks and mountains. But some people actually like the thrill of turning this idea into cash, or this piece of land into a 5, 6 units. Or in Eric's case, talking about owning your own home. In some instances, there's a caveat on that. If you're doing it as a project, I mean, it makes all the sense because it's tax-free. So let's sort of throw the home ownership out the window with the baby with the bathwater. Long-term home ownership, I think, is what you're referring to. But, what Eric's doing now over at Broadbeach is arbitraging, bought a piece of land some years ago, putting a nice box on it, and going to pick up a couple of mil tax-free. So that's also a good strategy.
Yeah, it depends on where you are in your life. All of this stuff is relative to where you are.
Correct.
Yeah, and I guess I'm talking to people who are my age and who've actually got a bit of assets and got some choices, and they continue to make choices that are not conducive. Like, you guys are younger.
I'll give you another example. I'll give you another example then, right? So my sister did what she did. She's left her corporate job and she's gone into remote sales. Her partner was selling houses. He's selling houses for Home Buyers Centre, House and Land, and but he's as he's seeing my sister do all these different things, he's like, okay, what opportunities are there for me? And he's looking at this and he's looking at that, and then he kind of got this thought. He had this epiphany. He's like, I'm just going to focus on sales. I'm going to take some of the stuff that Alicia's learning in her remote closing, and I'm going to take that into my house and land sales. He was doing 20 grand a month in sales. He just doubled it. He's doing 40 grand a month. He goes, fuck, man. He goes, all I did was just get rid of every other distraction, and all I focused on was trying to be better at sales, and I doubled my sales month on month. Sometimes it's as simple as that as well in your job. Just get rid of all the other shiny things, all the other possibility. Double down on the one thing that gives you the most excitement.
Tim Ferriss has a great saying. He says, what would this look like if it was simple? And I think that's really powerful for everybody, is to look at their own lives and just realize a lot of the stuff that's probably crept into their life is as a result of social media. You know, like when you actually give up on a lot, like there's a lot to be said for just giving up on needing to look good, sound good, feel good, and just go back to like just what resonates for you. Like, I don't wear a fancy watch. I'm renting a Corolla at the moment because I've sold the Porsche. And mate, I love jumping in this little shit box that I'm renting from a place for $2,000 a month, that I can just drive it around and I don't have to wash it every second day.
You don't have to worry about it getting dented or scratched.
No, I'm just so looking, like people said, oh, when you get to Cyprus, you're going to buy a Porsche. I'm like, dude, I'm going to get a fucking scooter.
Vespa.
Enjoy it, you know, like
The freedom.
just
of
the
riding.
freedom and the low stress, like just letting the stress go. We had a great pod with Peter and Roxy. It's not out yet. And then James and I interviewed some friends of ours who've gone on that plant medicine journey, and they've been to arrhythmia and they've done 22 trips and all this. And I'm like, this is kind of stuff that I'm really starting to become curious about and interested in. So no matter where you are, all I'm
Shift your
saying
paradigm.
is, just be prepared to just stop for a minute, go away for a couple of days and go, how much stuff in my life is just noise? And then, like, if I was to start from, if everything was optional for a minute, if I emptied all the toys out, which are the one or two that I want to keep, and just like have a big mental shit, let stuff and people go, and then just really come back to.
I'm going through that at the moment, and I've just worked out that the one I love is trading and investing, and it's like I don't have to manage anyone, all the only thing I have to manage is my emotions, and every day I get to learn about the thing that I love, and it's never ending. You know, you asked what the answer is, Eric. You're someone who's involved in many businesses. You've got heaps of different things on the go. My question to you would be, which is the one that gives you the most fulfillment and the most
just on that, I've seen Eric like just talking about paying the price for freedom, but you've got to be prepared. Like Eric was in a business and it wasn't we won't go into what it was, but for him to get his freedom back, he had to give up a bunch of equity. I've done that all year, right? Like I've done that with Dry Flush, my toilet business. I just went, I'm either going to sell this or I'm going to find somebody to run it and give up equity, and I opted for option 2. Eric did the same with one of his companies. You got to be prepared to look at it and let like Grant Cardone always said to me when I've caught up, he said, Adam, what are you prepared to let go of to get to where you want to be?
You can't just let go of the shit. You got to let go of some good stuff too.
You've got to create space for your happiness and joy.
I've always been able to attract good people, right? Like that's, I guess, a superpower of mine that comes very naturally to me that is not natural to a lot of people, right? But with that comes noise. Comes opportunity, comes phone calls and text messages and DMs and emails. For me, I've been flying under the radar for many, many years. And now with Unemployable, 18 months ago, Adam tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, I've got an idea and you've got a really cool fucking story. And I think you'd be really good at this. And it wasn't even a thought prior to that conversation. And then the mind got ticking and going, oh, yeah, this could be something. And this would be cool. And, you get a bit of significance, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like all this type of thing, especially being under the radar and going, oh, wow. Because you see Adam was opposite, right? He wasn't under the radar, right? He was on the radar for many, many, many years. And I looked at that and it kind of inspired me going, fuck, man, that's pretty cool. So it's kind of opposite for me now, which is the most exciting thing for me right now is this, to be honest.
That's awesome.
One, because it's out of my comfort zone, right? We got Stuart here. He just moved from Melbourne. He didn't have to move here from Melbourne, right? He was working remotely, but he's got so much belief in what we're doing and belief in the team and attracting such good people that believe in our crazy vision. And seeing the growth happening is really, really exciting. And having kind of control over that is exciting because a lot of the business that I'm in, I'm not the guy, right? I've got a lot of influence, right? I've got a lot of expertise that I put into play, for the growth and whatnot. And with Unemployable, it's a little bit different, right? And it wasn't set up that way, and it's ended up that way, which is quite exciting for me. But for me, I love the game. Like what James said before, I don't have any vices, man. Like I don't drink, I don't do drugs. I don't have a lot of bad vices. My bad vice really, I think, is business.
It's a game.
In a way, in deal making. And my wife pulls me up all the time, right? Because she's a bit more, you know, cruisy, and she's like when does it end? Like, when does it stop? It's always the next thing or the next property or the, you know, as much as it's amazing building this beautiful home, you know, there's still discussions on when you're spending so much time in it and it's 9 o'clock at night and you're tired and we're working on it, and it's like, why are we doing this again? Like, you know, you got to question yourself sometimes. But one thing that's really opened up for me is travel. We've loved traveling. We always have loved traveling. But for the past couple of years, we've been doing some big trips, you know, especially around Europe, and having that flexibility, right? So I'm thinking to myself with Unemployable is, how can we make Unemployable an amazing thing, yet still have some flexibility that we can come and go, right? Without having to physically feel like you have to, oh no, I have to be here, I can't go. And we're kind of talking about that.
Well,
now,
the best,
how can we make that happen?
The best podcast in the world, the All In podcast, in my opinion, for this kind of genre.
Yeah.
They're all remote.
Yeah. So I think what we need to do is, we're not obviously the billionaires like on All In and have all that relevance and credibility yet. But I think as time goes on and that credibility and relevance does build, and you build that audience, which we're already seeing now, I think over time, doesn't matter where you are, people will listen because they're listening to you, which is interesting. And
So watch this space, guys.
Yeah.
We'll get more mobile, or might do a Stephen Doak and build some copy sites in different cities so he can just pop in. He's got a full replica of his set in LA.
That's mad.
so
London.
cool.
So he can just fly in, it's there, and then he sits down, you don't know where he is. Anyway, good stuff, good discussion. Guys, just want to close out with another sponsor, right? Now, don't hang up. Don't stop the recording, because our sponsors, if you're new here, this is not like a paid sponsorship. We are followed by an audience of entrepreneurs. And if you are an Aussie or Kiwi entrepreneur and you have a brand or you're selling physical things, we do these shout outs once a week for our listeners' businesses. And so what you get by listening to this ad is you get to see what young people, mostly they're young people who listen to our pod, are actually doing. You get to see their brands and their products, and it serves as a form of excitement for you as well. So this week, it's a Gold Coast brand, two guys who started a company called Baja Beach Co. So that's B-A-J-A. So B-A-J-A beachco.com, bajabeachco.com. Now, I got to take my hat off these boys, because when you look at the packaging, and I always say this when I get great packaging, you can see just the care and the attention to every aspect of it. The branding is beautiful. Their website, if you haven't seen it, is ripping. Last week we had Jamie, who was in with the pillow slipcases. These guys sell beach, really boutique designer beach wear. So they come with a little envelope in the box. This one's actually a bucket hat. They're for the ladies, right? So this one's a bucket hat for, I won't put it on. Maybe I will.
Yeah, put it.
There you go.
That suits you.
Oh, excuse me. There you go. Thank you.
Can we turn that into a meme post-production?
No, but it's absolutely beautiful. This one is going to Jen, right, of course. But they also sell these stunning, like, beach towels. Like, look at that for a gift. Like, I don't know if you're listening on Spotify, you can't see it, but stunning beach towels. They've got them in white, pink, and sort of a, I don't know, sea mist green would probably be
Sage they call it.
Sage they call it.
Box.
And then they've got these carry bags that are like totes for, like, they've got a big purse for the ladies and then a big beach towel bag. So guys, thank you so much for sending these in. We're going to give them to our ladies to use, but go check them out, bajabeachco.com. It's a great example of what we were talking about earlier in the pod about young people exposing themselves to opportunities that just weren't there when we were coming up. I'm working with Josh at the moment. He's 25 years old, starting a sleep products business, and I'm sitting there and we're, mentoring him through it. And we're like dealing with China, and we're getting products come in, and we're building websites. We're going to sell it globally. And I was like, when I was coming up, you'd ride around a BMX bike and throw newspapers for 10 cents a paper. It's just a different world now than what you can do in your 20s. So stay on the positive side of all this stress, guys. Stay positive, stay focused, build your life from first principles. Don't let Instagram poison you from your potential and make you feel bad. There is a lot of good going on in the world. Great book by Peter Diamandis called Abundance, if you want an argument for why now is a great time to be alive. So go and maybe listen to that as well to get your head straight and make the most of this beautiful country that we still have. With that said, guys, have a great week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.